If you've ever seen the look of betrayal on my face when my girlfriend orders extra guacamole without even so much as a conversation beforehand, you'll know that I'm not a huge fan of add-ons generally. But when it comes to music theory that can enhance your guitar playing, I'm a huge fan of add-ons, alright? So, unlike guac, which is always a ripoff, this is going to be a really important lesson that I remember when I first kind of figured this stuff out. It really opened my eyes, okay? So we're just going to take a few basic pieces of music theory and then kind of link them together in ways that I think you might be able to incorporate into your playing forever and never forget, because it's really linking together different things, alright? So, again, something we always like to talk about is the pentatonic scale, right? So the first scale anybody learns is probably A minor pentatonic, okay? Just a 5-note scale. We've got 5/8, an A note and a C note on the E string, 5/7, a D and an E on the A string, 5/7, and then G and A, okay? So a lot of times, we'll maybe learn different pentatonic positions. Pentatonic position 1 looks like that. Pentatonic position 5 looks like that. And then you kind of just learn these little pieces. And it's like, all right, well, what do I do with that? Nothing. They just kind of sit there stuck in your head until eventually it makes sense, okay? The other thing is like, all right, what are different chords in a key and how do I combine them? Okay, well, the key of C is the one we all start with. And it has 3 major chords, C, F, and G, right? So there's like another piece of music theory, knowing the notes that go into those chords, right? Like a C major chord is a C, an E, and a G, okay? Any way you cut those up. You can make an arpeggio from that just by going like C, E, G. Becomes a shape, right? You can learn it as maybe like a major scale thing, depending on how you play the major scale, and then turning a chord into an arpeggio, learning just those things, right? So now this may already be kind of complicated for some people out there, but what I want to do is I want to take some of these concepts and combine them into just a fluid playing style that you can always use, all right? So we are going to use the key of C as an example, and that A minor pentatonic shape as the example that we're going to add on to this really one shape, all right? So what we have to know is a C note, an E note, and a G note make up a C chord, all right? Now, I'll link you to a easy music theory building chords video if you don't know any of that stuff, because there's like some cool visuals and stuff that you can see, and it's just a good, quick, short video that I think is really helpful. Probably the most important music theory video you kind of need to know first. But let's just find those notes in a shape. All right, so the C on the low E string is the 8th fret. All right, now we can play this as an arpeggio. Just play it one note at a time, like this. Okay, I'm taking the 8th note, 10th note, sliding it to the 12th note because it sounds saucy. All right, it sounds great. You don't need avocado for this. The veggie chipotle burrito is good enough. You know what I mean? Just get the peppers and the onions and the pico. That's all you need right there, right? A triad. Rice, beans, pico. That's all you really need for a burrito if you're, roughing it. Now we can add a little bit of avocado, right, as an add-on by sliding right here. But the real addition I want to talk about is going to be the 6th note in the major scale, okay? So watch this. I'm going to go from 8 to 12 to 10A to 12A, and then to the octave C. Okay, so I'll do it again. On the E string, 8, 10 to 12, 10A, 12A, 10D. Okay, now you can kind of make this kind of cool little, bluesy rockabilly kind of like that kind of thing, if you ever heard that, and then you can move that to the. So now we're just kind of using this as an arpeggio. We're taking the root note of the chord, the next note in that chord, which is called its major third, its 5th, and its 6th, okay? So that 6th note is really important. The reason that's important is because it's going to be very important. I'm just going to keep saying the word important to just signify the importance of this note, because that 6th note in any major key is just really, really vital to know. Notice how I used a different word, vital, instead of important, because I like to add on to my vocabulary. The reason the 6th note is important is because it's the relative minor of any key, okay? You may have heard this term before. basically, I think from a practical guitar standpoint, it just means this is where you can really shred all those minor pentatonic licks. The reason that you learn that A minor kind of thing now and then is because this is where you put it, right? Anytime you have a root note of a scale, the 8th fret we said was our C. If you go 6 notes through the major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, that 6th note is the relative minor. You can always find it in a much easier way by going back 3 frets, okay? So, again, if this is really confusing, the thing to think about is in any key, that minor pentatonic shape is going to exist 3 frets behind the root note, all right? That's where the minor pentatonic is. Also, I'm rocking the Donner thinline tele version here. This is a guitar that they sent me, so this video is sponsored by Donner. These guitars are really cool. I'm really glad they made the thin line. I've always loved the thin line look on a Telecaster body shape, and they make these for like right around $100. So I'll link you in the description. It's not even an affiliate link. It just takes you to their website. So check it out because, again, they sent me this last week, and it sounds pretty cool, and it's super inexpensive, right? So we've got C. Its relative minor is A. All right? That's why in the key of C major, A minor is a chord that you'll hear a lot and a shape that you can always use to solo. Now, we're thinking of it going back 3 frets, but what I want to add on to this shape is actually thinking about that right there, finding the 5th of the chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting through the major scale, and then getting that 6th note, right? So I think of a power chord first, right? So the 8th fret on the E string and the 10th fret of the A string, and then a step up from there, right? So you can actually just go back and forth between that by doing that super stretch. Sounds bluesy right there, right? But aside from that, that right there is the relative minor, okay? And something that I didn't ever put together for an embarrassing long time is that we can start that minor pentatonic shape right here. Okay, so let's just switch fingers and then just do that. And that gives it that very same shape at the beginning where we went A, C, D, E, G, A. The same thing as this, just an octave up. Okay, so a shape that is just really beaten into guitar players' minds is this. Pointer, pinky, pointer, ring, pointer, ring. I would venture to guess that you're probably pretty good at just playing that shape, okay? So let's add this on to that major arpeggio that we just did to extend just kind of like our comprehension of the different notes in this key. All right, so we'll start with that C. There's the 6th note, right? We're not gonna go do the rockabilly bum 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 bum. I don't even know if that's rockabilly. I'm getting my vocab words confused. Again, this isn't about vocabulary. This isn't about avocados. This isn't about guacamole. This is about good old-fashioned learning. Know what I'm saying? With a thin line telly. I'm a simple man. So we're gonna walk into this A note in the key of C. We're adding it to a C major chord. You can even think of this as an arpeggio for a C major 6 chord. All that means C major plus the 6th note. But from that 6th note, we're using that as an opportunity to climb up that pentatonic shape 1, okay? So a root note chord, just like that. And that sounds pretty smooth actually because there is a little bit of musicality to it because we're doing an arpeggio from a C and then getting into that 6, that relative minor, and then starting that minor pentatonic shape right there. And I think that's the important thing about really just like learning the pentatonic scale and how you can make it work for you is to start playing it out of positions. I almost think it's a disservice to really have the bulk of the education in pentatonic stuff being taught as positions because then you just see it as a position and it's like, how am I going to get from this position into the one previous or into the next one, right? I really think it makes a lot more sense to add it on to like a scale. Something like that, right? It just seems a lot more musical. Now, the beauty of this, and the beauty of why the pentatonic scale is so important, again, we're talking about a lot of kind of like, cornerstones of music theory principles in this one thing, right? one question I get a lot is like, why is it the pentatonic scale? Like there's 7 notes in the key, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. How come we're eliminating 2 of these notes and just making like 5 notes be important? The reason is because those 5 notes are really going to sound good over almost any chord. And what I mean by that is like we talked about earlier how there's 3 main chords in the key of C, 3 main major chords, right? C major, F major, and G major, right? Some of the first chords you'll ever learn, C, F, and G, a 1, 4, 5 in the key of C. The relative minor of each of those is going to be important because we're going to link all of those together, right? Remember, we said we can always find the relative minor by jumping back 3 frets, okay? That's kind of like a little tip or a trick. Just kind of how restaurants will try to trick you into paying double the price of an entree just for adding guacamole when you could probably source your own avocados and then pay a chef to make it yourself. That's a tangent. But what we're going to do is we're going to link every one of those relative minors together, right? So C, in the key of C, the relative minor is A. So that means we can add on A right there, right? In the key of G, what's the relative minor of G? Well, we can count through to 6 in G. G, A, B, C, D, E. Or go backwards 3. G, F sharp, F, E. All right, so now what does that mean? E being the relative minor of G. That means we can use that same pentatonic shape starting on an E. So when you do that G, 6, arpeggio, 3, 5 to 7, 5A. There's that 6th note, that's the E. So right there we can start the E minor pentatonic shape. Okay, just like with C. So here's C, G. Okay, now the 4 chord in C, C, D, E, F, right here. Here's the F shape, F to A to C. Again, all notes in the key of C, even though we're thinking of F as kind of being like the thing that's important right now. And then we grab its relative minor, which happens to be a D. We could do this by going just like on an F, the 13th fret, back 3 frets is D. Okay? So now we've paired every major chord in the key of C. Remember, we had 3 major chords. We had C as the 1 chord, F as the 4 chord, and G as the 5 chord. Now, within this key, there's one relative minor, which is A, being the relative minor in the key of C. That's why, again, like I said, C minor sounds great, or C major sounds great with A minor. All right? G, its relative minor in the key of G is E minor. E minor also happens to be a chord in the key of C. All right? That's why G and E minor pair really well together. F major is the 4 chord in C. Its relative minor is D minor, okay? So if you watch that other video about chord building that I talked to you about, or maybe you already have a good amount of knowledge of which chords go in a key, you'll know that the chords in the key of C major are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B, half diminished, and C. So we have 3 major chords, and all of those major chords' relative minors exist in this one key, which is why the pentatonic scale works so well over these, because even though we're not in the key of G, right, we're thinking in the key of C, when we do that E minor pentatonic, we don't have to know that we're not in the key of G to play E minor pentatonic, because our notes are E, G, A, B, D. Okay? So, even though in the key of G there's an F sharp, in the key of C it's just F natural, we're skipping the F note. The beauty of the minor pentatonic scale, or the pentatonic scale in general, is it's allowing us to still use that minor pentatonic shape over the relative minor. We could go over E minor, or over D minor, which we can use as an extension or an add-on of all of the major chords we've done so far. All right? So, like I said, to kind of recap, we've got C's spot. We'll do the arpeggio. F. G. Back to C. Now I want to talk really quickly about that last thing that I did right there over the G. All right, so a lot of information in this one lesson. If any of this is confusing, definitely check out my Patreon because I do more of a slower kind of breakdown of everything from the ground up. So I'll link that too if you guys are interested. That'd be really cool. But here's the G, right? So G to the third note in its chord, to the 5, so there's the 6, okay? That's that relative minor. We've already established that's how we can always find the relative minor higher up instead of going backwards. And then from there, I can shred that shape that we're really good at. Now when we end that relative minor, just like I said, we're ending on an octave higher, right? Remember we said E was the relative minor of G, so when I complete that little 3-string, 2 notes per string shape, I start on E, and I end on an E. Now just like we can go backwards from a major key to find its relative minor, we can also go 3 frets higher to find out where it started again, okay? So this is really kind of like a very expansive fretboard spanning kind of trick or add-on that we're doing right here. G major, it's 6, which is really the minor. So right there, that's something that's kind of interesting that you can always just kind of throw over any G chord ever. That's just playing around in G, right? And all I was doing is grabbing the arpeggio, adding the 6, going through the pentatonic scale, and then sliding it in to the note, which is where I started, right? Same thing with C. So now I'm kind of like, I might not have even known that the 17th fret on the G string is a C, but because I'm kind of taking it, going higher, getting to that 6, minor pentatonic, 3 frets higher, is going to give me my relative major, if that's how I want to look at it. That's a great way to kind of navigate into the higher territories of the neck. Same thing with the F. And I think having kind of like touchstones where, you know, you might not be able to like memorize every single fret of every string and the name of it right away. It is kind of easier to kind of make a little roadmap into something like this. And again, something like that just seems kind of, I would have thought that was like just like a smooth move that I couldn't really wrap my head around. But this really isn't that bad, and it works in any key. Anytime you see A major, doesn't matter what key you're in, it could be like a real funky piece of fusion music where, you know, it's going through all these modulations and key changes, but you know for this moment in A major, all of this stuff is going to work where I've got my major triad, so to speak, right? The rice, the beans, and the pico. I can add that guac and then really get me exactly where I need to go because there's my 6th note, and then I can run that relative minor and go higher into an A. And then if I'm like looking at a song and it's like, wow, that goes from an A to an A flat to a G to an F to C. So again, seeing just a chord, whether it's major, maybe we could do another one of these with minor chord shapes. If you guys are interested, just please let me know. But I really think this is like a cool way to kind of tie together a lot of music theory, because I just really remember once I started taking songs and being like, all right, this is a chord. I know how to build this chord. I know the notes that go into that chord, even if I can't say them out loud. If I can't say that an A major is an A, a C sharp, and an E, and then an F sharp being the major 6th of that chord, I know that I can spell it with my fingers like this. And then adding familiar shapes into that, you know, finger spelling, so to speak, really kind of made my playing really a lot better. And I think it's something that you can do over absolutely any chord, super easily movable. And I hope you learned it, and I hope you can incorporate this into your own playing in a really cool way. And I hope you never have to think about adding guac and what that will do to you financially. And also, thank you to Donner for sending over the thinline tally. If you guys have any questions or comments about this, I'll answer that and also link it in the description too. So again, thanks for checking it out. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.